Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. This time we're all about helping you prep for that Kennel Supervisor interview.
Yeah, we've got some awesome RoleCatcher resources to dig into today.
So let's just jump right in. First up, imagine you're sitting across from the hiring manager and they ask, what inspired you to pursue a career in animal care?
This is such a classic opening question.
It seems simple, but it can be tricky.
It really is, because they're not just looking for a surface level, I love animals kind of response.
They want to see that genuine passion.
Right. It's your chance to connect with them on a personal level.
So how do you do that?
Think about your story. What specific experiences made you realize, hey, working with animals is what I'm meant to do?
Like, was there a childhood pet that sparked something?
Maybe. Or maybe it was volunteering at a shelter.
Or even just like witnessing that amazing human-animal bond firsthand.
Exactly. So instead of just saying, I love animals, share a story that shows why you love animals.
Like, don't just say, I volunteered at a shelter.
Right. Tell them about the animals you cared for.
The challenges you faced, what you learned.
Yeah, paint a picture with your words.
Now, how do you tie that story back to the job itself?
If you're interviewing for a kennel supervisor role, you might talk about how that experience made you passionate about creating a safe and enriching environment for animals in your care.
I see. So it's about showing them that your passion translates into action.
Exactly. You're not just saying it, you're showing it through your experiences.
Okay, so you've shared your heartfelt story, you've connected with the interviewer.
Mm.
What if they follow up with something like, have you always wanted to work with animals, or did you have other career aspirations?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's digging a little deeper into your motivations.
Should you always say yes?
Honestly, honesty is key here.
Okay, so if you did consider other paths, it's fine to say so.
Yeah, maybe you started down a different road but realized it wasn't fulfilling.
So sharing that actually shows self-awareness.
Right. It demonstrates that you've thought carefully about your career and that you're genuinely committed to working with animals.
Okay, now let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about those tougher questions. The ones that assess your ability to handle challenging situations. Like, how would you answer this? How would you handle an animal exhibiting aggressive behavior?
Oh, this one is so important, especially in a kennel environment.
You got to show them you can keep everyone safe.
Exactly. Safety is the top priority, both for the animals and for the staff.
The RoleCatcher Career Guide actually has some really helpful insights on this.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, it talks about things like monitoring staff performance, ensuring proper handling techniques.
Oh, and having a solid understanding of animal psychology.
Yes, so much good stuff in there.
So how can someone weave those points into their answer?
Well, they could start by acknowledging the importance of safety, right?
Obviously, no.
Then they could describe their process for assessing the situation.
Like, do you try to identify any triggers?
Do you observe the animal's body language? That kind of thing.
And instead of just saying, I'd remove the animal, they should explain the steps they take to de-escalate the situation.
And always prioritizing safety, of course.
Of course.
Mentioning specific handling techniques they've learned is also super helpful.
Oh, absolutely. Or any experience working with animals that have behavioral issues.
It just adds that extra layer of credibility.
Right. It shows you're not just talking the talk, you've walked the walk.
Now, what if they throw a curveball and ask, what if that aggression is owner-directed during pickup?
Ooh, that's a good one.
How do you de-escalate that while still staying professional?
It's a tough situation for sure, but clear communication is key.
You can say something like, I'd first try to calmly assess the situation and separate the owner from the animal if necessary.
Yeah, that's good.
Then I'd explain the situation to the owner, emphasizing that safety is my top priority.
And if the owner is still upset?
If the owner remained agitated, I'd politely but firmly explain the kennel's policies and procedures.
That's perfect. You're showing that you can handle a tough situation with grace.
And this is where RoleCatcher's AI can be so helpful. It analyzes specific job descriptions, so it can actually provide feedback on your answers.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. So if a particular kennel really emphasizes de-escalation techniques or owner communication, RoleCatcher's AI will make sure your answer hits those key points.
That's amazing. It's like having a personal coach tailoring your responses to the specific role.
Exactly. And that kind of preparation can really make you stand out from the crowd.
For sure.
All right, let's move on to another important aspect of kennel supervision: exercise and socialization. How would you approach this question? How do you ensure adequate exercise and socialization for the animals?
Oh, this one is all about going beyond the basics.
Like, it's more than just walks and playtime,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. They're looking for someone who understands that different animals have different needs.
And that you can tailor activities accordingly.
The pros and cons section in the RoleCatcher Career Guide actually talks about this. You need to show you can adapt to different breeds, ages, personalities.
So how do we go beyond the obvious and show them we get that?
Instead of just listing activities like walks and playtime, give them specific examples.
So you could say something like, for high-energy dogs, I'd incorporate agility training or fetch.
Right. And for senior dogs?
For senior dogs, I might focus on gentle walks and playtime with softer toys.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What about shy or anxious dogs?
And for shy or anxious dogs, I'd prioritize one-on-one interaction and positive reinforcement training.
Yes. That's a great way to show you understand that a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work in a kennel environment.
And it's always good to draw on your experience. Mention specific enrichment activities you've used successfully in the past.
Absolutely. You're showcasing your expertise and showing them you've got the skills to handle a variety of situations.
And if you're lacking experience in certain areas, well, that's where RoleCatcher's AI can be a lifesaver.
Oh, how so?
It can actually pinpoint those gaps in your knowledge and recommend relevant resources to help you fill them in.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. It's like having a personalized learning path.
Exactly. So you can walk into that interview feeling confident and prepared no matter what they throw your way.
I love that. Now, what about those tricky follow-up questions? Like, what if they ask, how would you manage a kennel with limited outdoor space? What creative indoor enrichment would you provide?
That's a tough one. It really tests your problem-solving skills.
It does. But it's a scenario you might actually encounter, so it's good to be prepared.
Think about it like a puzzle.
Yeah, a fun puzzle. Could you set up indoor obstacle courses?
Maybe use puzzle feeders to stimulate their minds.
Yes. And what about incorporating scent games or interactive toys?
Those are great ideas.
It's all about finding ways to keep those animals engaged and entertained, even when outdoor space is limited.
And highlighting any experience you have with DIY enrichment activities shows resourcefulness, right?
Oh, definitely. Which is a valuable trait in any kennel supervisor.
Exactly. It shows you're willing to go the extra mile to create a stimulating environment for the animals no matter what.
And that's what it's all about. Okay, so we've talked about handling animals, but let's shift gears to the people side of things.
Oh, yeah. Because as a kennel supervisor, you're not just managing animals, you're leading a team.
Exactly. You'll be working with staff, volunteers, maybe even interacting with owners.
And that means dealing with conflict. How would you answer this one? How do you manage conflicts with staff, owners, volunteers?
Ooh, this is a good one because it's less about specific procedures with animals and more about your leadership style.
The RoleCatcher Career Guide actually mentions this under education and training.
It does.
Yeah, it says you need 62% proficiency in this area. What does that even mean in practical terms?
Well, it means you need to show you can instruct, resolve disputes fairly, and foster a positive team environment, all at the same time.
That's a lot to juggle.
It is. Imagine this. A conflict between a longtime volunteer who's used to doing things a certain way
Okay, I'm with you.
and a new staff member following updated cleaning protocols.
Ooh, that's a recipe for disaster. How do you balance respecting experience while still enforcing the rules?
Right. It's a delicate balance.
What if they ask about giving constructive criticism or handling a staff member who's repeatedly mishandling animals?
Okay, those are some tough follow-up questions. But you're important. You want to show that you take animal welfare very seriously.
So mishandling is a big no-no.
Exactly, but you also need to show that you can handle it professionally.
So instead of saying, I'd fire them on the spot,
Right, don't do that.
you could say something like, I believe in clear communication and providing constructive feedback. I'd first address the issue privately with the staff member,
Yeah, that's a good start.
clearly outlining the concerns and expectations.
And then,
Then, I'd offer additional training and support to make sure they have the necessary skills and knowledge,
that's a great approach. You're showing that you're invested in your team's development.
and that you're committed to creating a positive work environment.
Absolutely. What if the interviewer really pushes and asks, how would you handle a situation where a staff member is consistently failing to meet performance standards, even after additional training?
That's a tough one. But you could mention that while you believe in second chances, the animal's well-being is non-negotiable.
So what would you say?
Something like, if, after repeated attempts to address performance issues, the staff member continued to fall short of expectations, I would have to consider further disciplinary action,
And what would that involve?
up to and including termination, but always following the kennel's established procedures, of course.
Right. You want to show that you understand the gravity of the situation, but that you're also committed to following proper protocol.
Exactly. And remember, practicing these types of responses with RoleCatcher's AI can be a game changer.
How so?
The AI can assess your tone and wording, so you can strike that perfect balance between firmness and compassion.
It's like having a virtual mentor helping you refine your communication style.
Exactly. Now let's dive into a question that might catch some people off guard. How do you ensure that all animals receive proper medical care and treatment?
This one seems broad. Where do you even start?
Well, it's your chance to highlight your proactive approach to animal health.
So it's not just about reacting to illness.
Right. It's about preventing it.
Yeah.
You can start by outlining your system for monitoring the animal's health.
What kind of things would you mention?
Do you conduct daily checks for signs of illness or injury? Do you have a system for recording any changes in behavior or appetite?
Yeah, it's all about being observant.
Exactly. And don't forget to mention your experience working with veterinarians.
Oh, good point. Explain how you would communicate with the vet, ensure animals get their vaccinations, and follow instructions for administering medication.
You want to show them you're a team player. And speaking of teamwork, what if they hit you with this? What are your procedures for handling a medical emergency in the kennel?
Oh, boy. Talk about pressure.
It's all about preparedness. First, emphasize that you have a clear protocol in place.
What would that protocol look like?
Well, having a designated emergency contact list is a must.
Makes sense.
Knowing the location of the nearest emergency vet clinic, having basic first aid supplies on hand. Those were all important.
And don't be afraid to share specific scenarios you've encountered.
Right. Maybe you had to administer CPR to a choking dog or stabilize an injured animal.
Those real-life examples really show that you can stay calm under pressure.
Exactly. They want to see that you can handle a crisis. And remember, RoleCatcher's AI can help you practice those high-pressure situations.
Oh, that's a great idea.
It's like having a mock emergency drill, but for your interview skills.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about staff management. After all, as a kennel supervisor, you'll be responsible for a whole team.
A typical question might be, how do you ensure that all kennel staff are properly trained and equipped to provide high-quality care for animals?
This is all about showcasing your leadership and commitment to building a strong team.
You can start by talking about your approach to initial training, making sure new staff members understand all the policies and procedures.
And don't forget about ongoing professional development.
Oh, right. You could mention encouraging staff to attend workshops or conferences.
Or even creating opportunities for internal training, where more experienced staff can share their knowledge with newer employees.
It's all about fostering that culture of learning and growth.
And providing regular feedback and support is crucial. Creating that open environment where staff feel comfortable asking questions.
What if they ask a follow-up question like, how would you handle a situation where a staff member is consistently failing to meet performance standards?
That's a tough one, but it's important to address.
You need to find that balance between being supportive and holding people accountable.
Right. So what would you say?
Something like, I believe in providing constructive feedback and offering opportunities for improvement. I'd first meet with a staff member privately to discuss the areas where they're falling short and create a clear action plan.
And if that doesn't work?
If they continue to struggle despite the support, I'd have to consider further disciplinary action, always following the kennel's established procedures.
It's about showing them that you understand the importance of both supporting your team and upholding those high standards of animal care.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher's AI can be a huge help in navigating these tricky conversations. It analyzes your tone and wording, making sure you come across as both empathetic and firm.
It's like having a virtual advisor in your corner.
Okay, let's talk about the legal stuff. How would you approach this question? How do you ensure that all kennel operations are compliant with relevant laws and regulations?
It can sound intimidating, but it's really about showing your professionalism.
Of just being aware of the rules isn't enough.
It's a good start, but you want to demonstrate you understand the importance of compliance.
So what's the best way to do that?
Well, you can start by mentioning your familiarity with local and national regulations.
Like those related to sanitation.
Yeah, sanitation, ventilation, animal housing requirements.
So it's good to be specific.
Absolutely. It shows you've done your homework.
What about staying updated on changes? Regulations are always evolving, right?
Exactly. You could mention subscribing to industry newsletters or attending workshops.
Or maybe even consulting with legal professionals who specialize in animal welfare.
Now that shows you're serious about compliance.
Okay, now for a curveball. What steps would you take to ensure the kennel is prepared for a surprise inspection? Talk about pressure.
It's all about systems and organization.
So, maintaining meticulous records.
Yes, making sure all staff are trained on proper procedures.
Conducting regular internal audits.
Exactly. You want to show that you're proactive and always looking for ways to improve.
And here's where RoleCatcher's AI can be a real game changer.
Oh, how so?
It can actually analyze specific kennel profiles and tailor your response.
So, like, if a kennel has had compliance issues in the past.
Yep. RoleCatcher will flag that, and you can address those concerns directly.
That's amazing. It's like having inside information.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now let's talk emergencies. How would you answer this? How do you handle emergency situations, such as natural disasters or medical emergencies?
This is where your leadership skills really come into play.
It's about showing you can stay calm and make smart decisions under pressure.
So what's the first step?
I'd start by outlining the emergency preparedness plan I'd put in place.
What kind of things would that include?
A designated evacuation route,
Good one.
a system for communicating with staff and owners,
Okay, makes sense.
a backup power source in case of outages,
Don't forget about first aid supplies.
and be ready for those follow-up questions.
Like, what would you do IF?
Exactly. Like, imagine the kennel loses power during a heat wave. How do you ensure the safety of the animals?
That's a tough one. What would you say?
Well, I'd mention backup generators, emergency cooling systems, or even relocating the animals to a cooler location if needed.
So it's about thinking on your feet.
Exactly. And regularly reviewing those plans to make sure they're up to date.
RoleCatcher's AI can actually simulate different emergency scenarios. It's like a virtual disaster drill.
That's so cool. It'll definitely help you build your confidence. Okay, let's get real for a minute. How do you balance the needs of the animals with the financial constraints of the kennel?
The budget question. It's a tricky one for sure.
It's about being realistic, right?
Oh.
You need to show you understand that providing the best care sometimes means making tough choices.
So how do you strike that balance?
You could explain how you would prioritize spending.
Like focusing on essentials like medical care, food, and enrichment activities.
Exactly. And then maybe finding creative ways to save money on other things.
But what if you felt like the animal's needs weren't being met?
That's when you have to advocate for them.
Okay, so if the interviewer asks, how would you advocate for additional resources?
You got to be prepared to make your case.
I'd start by gathering data, showing the benefits of those resources.
Like highlighting the positive impact on the animal's health and well-being. Right. It's about being a voice for the animals while also working collaboratively with management.
It's a delicate balance for sure.
And, as always, RoleCatcher's AI can help you refine your approach, making sure you strike the right tone. Okay, last question. How do you ensure that all animals receive individualized care and attention?
This is where you let your passion shine.
It's about recognizing that each animal is an individual.
Right. With its own personality, needs, and quirks.
So how do you get to know each animal?
Do you observe their behavior, take notes on their personalities, chat with their owners to learn about their preferences?
And don't forget to share specific examples.
Yeah. Like creating a special enrichment activity for a shy dog, or adjusting a feeding routine.
Those personal touches really make a difference.
They show that you truly care.
Well, folks, that wraps up our deep dive into prepping for your Kennel Supervisor interview.
We hope you feel confident and prepared to showcase your skills and your passion.
Remember, the pet care industry needs dedicated people like you, so go out there and rock that interview.
Good luck. We're rooting for you.